Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. In this episode, I interview Xavier Cano. Xavier Cano has a lot of experience in corporate America and is now an executive coach. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Great energy. I met him at the Leadership Summit for Prospani got back in March in Las Vegas. And we've met for the first time in person, but we've been in touch for a long time on LinkedIn. But it's an amazing episode and I hope you enjoy it. Take care. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I'm here with the great Xavier Cano. Javier, how are you?
Doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic today. Let's jump right into it. Tell everyone about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Xavier Cano, and in present day, I am both a career coach and a life coach. I also deliver professional development and peak performance workshops to corporations, to universities, and really is to help employees and also students build resilience and essentially do what I call unblocking your power. And in turn, this helps corporations in regards to improving productivity, performance, culture. And this is something I've been doing for close to 20 years. And it just brings me a lot of satisfaction just to see the growth in the people that I'm able to reach.
Thank you, Javier. Thank you so much. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. So I'm big on education, as you can see. I mean, if you ignore the belts, you received your BS, Bachelor of Science from University of Houston, MBA from Texas McCombs, right? McCombs or McCombs?
Yeah, the McCombs School of Business.
All right, excellent. So how do these experiences help you in your business today?
Sure. So education is extremely important, and my education at the University of Houston and at the University of Texas at Austin, it really just prepared me with the skills to be a successful professional. And so I spent about 16 years working for multiple Fortune 500 companies, and my education, really set the foundation to be successful in the types of roles that I eventually did, which revolved around project management, program management, change management, and of course, process engineering. And so in present day, as a coach, I'm able to help my clients who work in corporate America just simply because I have that experience as well. And so my education is a huge reason as to who I am today. And it's something that I absolutely emphasize for people who want to gain new skills and who want to have the knowledge to be able to do certain roles within corporate America.
I love it, which segues into my next question. So you've worked at Cigna, Bank of America, SAP, and Dell. So how did all those experiences help you in what you're doing today as well?
No, I think that's a great question. And so I did work in corporate America for 16 plus years. And during that time period, I had an opportunity to serve in different leadership roles. And so this required me to manage a budget and also at times develop the professional development needs of my team, right? And so the cool thing is that in present day, as an entrepreneur, as a professional coach who delivers peak performance and professional development workshops, I have a good understanding of what my corporate clients are looking for, right? What they're looking for in terms of team building and helping their members develop new skills where they can take the team to a new level. And so it does make it easier for me to sympathize and also create solutions that fits their needs as well, while also understanding that budgets can be tricky, right? And so sometimes there is a budget, sometimes there isn't. And so that experience allowed me to realize the nature of that process. And then if anything, I'm also able to include insights in all of the presentations that I do around how to thrive as an employee working in corporate America. So anything from personal branding to emotional intelligence to how do you reduce stress? How do you have effective communication? How do you manage change? How do you identify continuous improvement opportunities? Really, my experience working in corporate America for that many years has allowed me to be able to develop those insights within my own presentations.
I love it. I love it. Everything, you take a little bit of everything, and then obviously it'll make it your own, right?
Exactly.
So you started your own, coaching business and a life coaching business. So how'd that come about? Was it like, what was your aha moment? Said, you know what, I think I'm gonna take a bet or a gamble myself. Can you tell us that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I have been doing it for a really, really long time. And as I continued throughout the years, my business got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I realized that at some point, you know what, if it's grown to where it has, then there's something to be said about what people are looking for. And so I also had some experiences as well where I worked with my very first life coach roughly in 2016, and it opened my eyes into what other opportunities would open up when exposed to these life coaching topics like personal branding, like emotional intelligence. And so that in combination with just my experience and the growth with my business, I knew that, you know what, it's time for me to, to now dedicate my full time to this business. And so it was a really cool experience. It was a little scary at first, but I always tell people that if you hear that little voice in your head telling you that, hey, it's time, and if you do the analysis and you look at the financials, and if it makes sense, then you're heading in the right direction.
That makes a lot of sense. As been through that myself a little bit. Yeah. So I did the best. You did it better than me. You had it as a side hustle, and eventually grew, and then you eventually made the jump, right? So I just dived in head
Exactly.
first, which is
Yeah.
the wrong.
Yeah. And there hasn't been one day that I've regretted it. Believe me, it was exactly what I needed to do.
No, I love it. No, you did it smart. So as you mentioned, you're a coach and a speaker, and then one of the topics you mentioned is branding. So according to Oberlo, 88% of consumers say authenticity is important when deciding what brands they like and support. Do you agree? And if yes, why? Or if no, why?
Sure, I absolutely agree with this statement. My personal opinion is that we are moving in a direction where people are looking for companies for whom they can trust. And one of the best ways to establish trust is to feel that a company truly stands for what it says that it does, right? Not just something that they put out, for 1 week and then their actions say something completely different, right?
Mhm.
And so I do think that people are looking for that in the brands for whom they trust. But I would also say that in the same token, we are also moving in this direction by how do we express our own authenticity within corporate America, right? And so that is also becoming just as important as well. And so now it's become an exercise around how can we honor a company culture as an employee while also influencing that culture to be more inclusive of the people working there, so that way people do feel comfortable showing up as themselves and expressing their authenticity as well.
I love it. It's all about authenticity. I'm going to pivot slightly. So you said one of the topics uh, you speak about is emotional intelligence, right? So why is emotional intelligence so important to understand in teams?
So, for those who don't know, emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's own emotions as well as the emotions of other people. In other words, having an idea of how somebody else may react to certain statements, to certain situations, all of that helps to build emotional intelligence. And so, when we are working in teams, we are all exposed to individuals of different backgrounds, different experiences, different belief systems, sometimes different cultures, different personalities. And so it can be tricky because the way that we interpret certain pieces of information may not be the same way that others interpret that as well, right? And so we don't always also communicate the same. And so because of these differences, this can absolutely cause friction in any type of team environment. And so when we think about emotional intelligence, when we develop those types of skills where we have the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's own emotions while understanding those of others, then it helps us to prevent situations where we may get upset, or maybe in situations where other people may get upset as well. And then also developing those skills where we can kind of bring it back down when we reach a certain situation where we are getting upset, we are getting emotional, we can kind of bring that back down so that way we don't get as frustrated and we are able to create situations that are a little bit more conducive to a healthy working environment. And so emotional intelligence is an excellent topic. That was one of the topics that I learned about in 2016, and I was amazed that those were skills that I had never learned before. But as a coach now, I absolutely see the importance of teaching those two teams so that way teams can be successful.
I love it. I love it. So what are some things organizations can do to build a high performing, emotionally intelligent team, in your opinion?
So there's many ways. I mean, one of the most basic ways, and as a coach, training and workshops, right? So providing training and workshops is a great way to teach your employees emotional intelligence. And so they can be focused on self-awareness, how you develop effective communication. They can be around conflict resolution. They can be around teamwork. All of these topics fit under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. Also by fostering a safe and inclusive culture, right? And so you can create an environment where team members feel safe to express their emotions. A lot of times there are people that work for organizations where they're afraid to speak up, right? They're afraid that if they say something that it will be seen negative against them, right? And so the more that we can foster a safe and inclusive culture, the more likely that people are going to express their opinions, right? And in doing so, that helps to develop emotional intelligence as well. Another thing too is that we all have to lead by example. And so if a company culture wants to develop emotionally intelligent teams, then it's important that the leaders have also been trained on what emotional intelligence is. And I'll just give you an example. I just did a post today on LinkedIn where I talked a little bit about, as a manager, when you're meeting with your direct reports, are you constantly checking your phone, right? It's something that we're starting to see more and more. That's an example of not necessarily showing emotional intelligence in that situation, because even though the manager might just be checking a text that they got from their own manager, or maybe that there's something that they're waiting for, the direct report that they're speaking to, they may not know that they may not know what's going on, and they may perceive that as their manager being disrespectful or not giving their full attention, right? And so when we build emotional intelligence, a leader is able to say, you know what, if I don't clearly state that I may need to drop because of an important phone call, or if I don't maybe cancel this meeting and reschedule for a different time so that way I can be fully present, it can create situations where direct reports may not feel like they can feel safe, they may not feel appreciated. And again, it's an example of how do you teach a leader to show that emotional intelligence. And then finally, I'll say promoting a culture where employees feel comfortable providing feedback, right? Whether it's through one-on-ones, whether it's through a 360-degree feedback. Companies that succeed are companies that ask for feedback, because every single one of us has some insight that we can provide that can change the way that a company moves, and many times it's in the right direction. And so providing mechanisms by which employees can provide feedback is extremely important, and also helping to build emotionally intelligent teams.
I love it. Yes, feedback is so important, right? And not wait to the annual review, but if you could provide that feedback along the way, you make the change quicker, and then and then implement that change quicker and improve your performance. I was reading a Forbes article a couple of days ago, 6 ways to build an effective, emotionally intelligent team, right? So I'm not going to read all 6, but one of them was wide open communication, right? So how important is open communication in managing a team effectively?
Sure. So open dialogue is extremely important, as I was mentioning earlier. I mean, team members, they want to feel safe, they want to feel supported, they want to feel psychologically safe. I know that that's a term that's used a lot today, and it's true. A lot of times, people they may not feel psychologically safe. Like if they bring something up that's going to be seen negative to them, right? Oh, this person's just causing trouble. Oh, this person's right, and so to be able to move into the next next wave, the next step, it does involve challenging the status quo, right? But if everyone is afraid to express their opinion, then they're not going to do it, right? And so when companies foster a culture of open communication, this also enables individuals to express their emotions, express their thoughts and their concerns without that fear of judgment. And then also it promotes empathy as team members. Then they'll actually listen to one another. They'll strive to understand different perspectives. And so you have to understand that if at the company level, if it's doing its work to promote different perspectives, then team members will feel comfortable doing the same thing as well. One other way to promote open communication is through the creation of ERGs. And I mention this because a lot of my clients do tend to be enterprise resource groups. So affinity groups for maybe a population, maybe the Hispanic population, African Americans, LGBTQ, veterans, working parents, right? And so when we open communication, we're able to get those different perspectives. We're able to listen to those insights. And at least for me, it has definitely done a great job in me changing the way that I thought about something, because I was able to hear a perspective that was new to me, right? And then I was able to integrate that into my own belief system and make decisions that would essentially benefit more than just a certain group of people, but the entire company. And so open communication is key in terms of running a successful company.
Thank you. It's so important. I try to have open communication with my people. So 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. According to the World Economic Forum, right, Futures Job Report, emotional intelligence will be one of the top 10 job skills employers will look for. So, I mean, the original question is, what can companies do to stay ahead? But I want to think about it because I get approached a lot because of my background in career services. What can individuals do to kind of stay ahead? If that's going to be one of the top 10 skills in the future.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I would definitely say that just reading about emotional intelligence is important. A lot of people don't know what that is. And so, basically doing a quick Google search, what is emotional intelligence? How can I build emotional intelligence, right? Also asking for feedback, right? And so once you understand what emotional intelligence is, ask for feedback and be open to the feedback. Ask your partner, ask your friends, hey, when I do this, does this upset you, right? And in turn, if you are getting feedback from a friend or from a family member, listen to what they're saying. Like, really don't just hear, but listen to try and understand where they might be coming from, right? And so one thing I talk to with my clients is that we all have different perspectives, right? And we all have to also show other people how we want to be treated. And so just because one person is telling you how they want to be treated, right, that doesn't mean that everybody wants to be treated that way necessarily. It means that they want to, right? And so again, emotional intelligence is also about perceiving how other people may react to maybe certain things that we do, right? And so if person X is going to behave a certain way, if I say something, then I know that when I'm around this person, there might be a different way for me to communicate something so that they can perceive it the way that I want them to, and which may be different with the way I communicate with other people, right? In other words, the way that I communicate with my mother might be different than the way I communicate with my father, maybe different than the way I communicate with my twin brother, than with my boss, and so forth. And so emotional intelligence is about recognizing that. And so as an individual, doing a quick Google search, reading about it, being open to feedback, actually asking for feedback are really important ways. And then I guess I'll just throw in a plug as well. Working with a coach can be extremely helpful as well in terms of helping yourself identify those opportunities on how you can gain more emotional intelligence.
You segued it perfectly. We didn't even plan it into my one of my final questions is why should even the best hire a coach?
So I am a professional ICF certified coach, and I can tell you that even though I have been meeting with coaches for the last 6 years, I still meet with different types of coaches at least 1 to 3 times per month. Okay, and I'll repeat that. I still meet with different coaches at least 1 to 3 times per month. And the reason for that is because a coach can help bring things out of you that you did not realize were there. And both of these things can be things that can be improved, and they can also be strengths that you didn't realize that you had. But also there are different types of coaches, right? And so I specifically focus on professional development, peak performance, helping people build resilience, helping people who are feeling stuck. But equally, there are coaches that focus on helping people gain better sleep or developing the nutrition that they want, right? There are other coaches that focus on other things as well, right? And so depending on what you're looking for, there are different types of coaches. There are coaches that will help you build spirituality into your life, right? That there are coaches that will help you build mindfulness into your life. And so not everybody is an expert at everything. And so really working with coaches is a great way to gain different perspectives about yourself. And so I highly, highly encourage it.
No, yeah, I was so like stubborn in the beginning, but yeah, now looking back, yeah, I probably would have accelerated 5 times if I didn't, get a coach sooner. But I agree with you 100% there. There's also the importance of having a mentor, which there is a difference, right? So finding people that have already gone through what you've been through and are, maybe a few steps, not a few steps ahead, but maybe are years ahead of your business. So why is that also important, especially for our new entrepreneurs?
Sure. So mentorship is extremely important. I actually do a workshop on mentorship, and it is a little bit different than coaching because a coach is going to help bring out of you what is already there, but you're the one taking the lead, right? With a mentor, this is somebody who you trust, who you feel comfortable that they can give you feedback, and it doesn't have to be this way, but a lot of times it's helpful to have a mentorship that actually works at the same company where you do. Because as you have your conversations with your mentor and you explain to your mentor what your goals are, they can give you some very tactical advice on how you can move your career forward at that specific company. And so, for example, they might tell you something like, based on the goals that you have, there is this person, there is this director. They are outside of our department, but this is their name. And if you reach out to them, they are actually looking for somebody like yourself with your skill sets in this specific area. And so if one of your goals was to work on that specific type of project, we'll call it maybe a marketing type project, then, and they are a marketing director, then now this mentor has just made this connection for you, right? And so a coach would not necessarily do that. But most coaches do not work at the same organization where you are at. And so they wouldn't know that. But the mentor can actually give you that specific advice to get ahead in your career. And then there'll be times where the mentor might be in some of the same meetings that you're in. And so they might give you feedback during this meeting. These are some things that you did really well. These are some things that you can also improve on if you want to, based on the goals that you set with me as well. And so absolutely encourage everyone to have a coach, but equally, I encourage everyone to have a mentor at work because it can take your career exponentially to the next level.
Final question before we get into wrap up. So, someone is stuck in their career, whether they're middle management or even C-suite or close to C-suite, what should be the first thing they should do?
So the first thing that they should do, I would say, is to write down what their goals are. All right. So one of the biggest reasons why people do get stuck is because simply they're not being clear about what it is that they want. And when I say clear, one of the things that I show my clients is that clear does not mean 99% sure. Okay. Clear means being 100% sure. In other words, you've either made a decision or you have not. And I understand that it can be confusing as you're kind of toggling different ideas, but the first step is, are you being clear about what it is that you want, right? And then one of the things that I specialize in is if someone is being really clear about what they want and they're not getting it, usually the biggest reason why they're not getting it is because they have some type of what I call a mental block, right? A mental block can be either something they've chosen to believe about themselves and or somebody else and or a situation that simply isn't true. All right. And so when people make choices about themselves or decisions about themselves and it's not true, that is one of the best ways to create a mental block, because then as you develop your goals, you think that you can't take the route a certain way. And sometimes you absolutely can. Sometimes you can skip many steps, but that mental block is getting in the way of you going into that direction that you want. Right. And so when I say that I specialize in helping my clients become unstuck, we go through that exercise. Number one, are you being 100% clear about what it is that you want? And if they're not sure, we do a career plan. We do some exercises where we can have a clear path on what it is that they want. But once we have that, then the question is, do you have a mental block? Is there something that you're believing about yourself, somebody else, or a situation that simply is not true? And what do we need to do in order to address that? Right. And so, for example, some people might say, well, the only way that I can be in this role is if I have this certification. Sometimes that is true, but sometimes it's not true, right? And so as long as you tell yourself that it's true, you're never going to get there, right? And again, sometimes you do have to have the certification, but sometimes you do not. Sometimes you can do the role and get the certification at the same time. Sometimes you don't even need it, right? And so for the person who is stuck, that's the advice that I would give.
I love it, my friend. I love it. Amazing conversation. Almost already 30 minutes in. Time flies when you're having fun, right? Isn't it?
I know.
Tell us how can, if anyone's interested in hiring you to speak or hire you as a coach, how can people reach out to you?
Absolutely. So you can either find me on LinkedIn at Xavier Cano, or you can send me an email at info@javiercanosuccess.com. And again, my name Javier is spelled with an X, like Xavier. So you can think info@xaviercanosuccess.com.
Javier, it's been a pleasure to have you on my show. Obviously, I know you from my Hispanic family, but thank you so much for being on my show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I definitely did. So thank you so much for being on the show.
No, this was excellent. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, if anybody needs help with coaching or would like a dynamic workshop on any of these topics, let me know.
Thank you, Xavier Cano, everybody.
Hey everybody, that wraps up the episode with Xavier Cano. Amazing coach, amazing human being. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you picked up a tip or two. And remember, transform your way to success, baby. Take care.